Hey everybody, KC here. So there was a story in Business Insider about egg prices. Everybody's talking about egg prices. And the story said that egg prices are soaring again as the bird flu sweeps the US for the third straight year, cutting into supply. There's also apparently some climate change issues that's creating supply problems. In addition, on the other side of the equation, the story says seasonal factors have pushed demand up. All that holiday baking and cold winter weather makes people into eggheads, and consumers have been buying eggs more than normal the last couple of years. Okay, all fair. We all know egg prices are going up. And in fact, I got an email yesterday responding to my story about how Stu Leonard's is talking to customers about prices, causes, and effects. And that reader's from out in the Pacific Northwest, and he wrote, "Wow, I went to the Safeway store here in Portland, Oregon this last weekend and casually checked out the egg prices. Wow! A dozen eggs were priced at a range of $7.99 to $12.99. Some were free range, some were organic, some were brown, some had a green tint, and some were just the old standby white eggs. Anyhow, our egg consumption will be drastically reduced until the egg market pricing comes back into balance." Interesting. I thought about this. So when I go to Stu Leonard's and I buy eggs, this is what I buy. I buy a dozen cage-free jumbo grade A brown eggs. This is what I like. I'm sure I'll get email from people saying, don't waste your money on brown eggs. You don't have to get jumbo, whatever. These are the eggs I like. Okay, this is what I buy. And these cost these days about $5. Now, that's a couple of dollars more than it was when I was buying them a few years ago. But do the math for a second. I did. That works out to being about 42 cents an egg. So if I have 2 eggs for a meal, that's less than $1. Now, if I decide to have a couple of slices of toast, and let's be really extravagant in terms of the kinds of bread I'm going to buy, let's add another $1 in there. Now, if I add in some sliced peppers, maybe a little cheese, well, maybe the whole meal costs in the neighborhood of, I don't know, $3.50, $4, something like that. Now, that's pretty reasonable. Not as reasonable as it would have been a few years ago, but I think still pretty reasonable. And not only that, it's completely explainable. It's still a great bargain. Again, not as great a bargain as when eggs cost, and it's not quite as much of a bargain when eggs cost twice as much as what I'm paying, but it's still cheaper than a lot of stuff that you can buy that isn't nearly as good for you. My point is this. Customers often respond to the last social media posting that they see. And it's pretty easy to make people feel outrage on social media. That's what it does. But if you actually talk to customers, if you actually explain things to them, you try to put things into perspective, you open a dialogue and get people to think about things in a different way, that can be really positive, both in terms of what they buy and in terms of your relationship with the shopper. Break down the cost, explain the nutritional value, make comparisons that will resonate. Now, this is not to minimize the impact of price increases on eggs or anything else. Listen, far from it. For a lot of people, doubling the price of an egg from 20 cents to 40 cents, well, that's a really big deal. And for some people, it's going to be a deal breaker. But have you bought steak lately? Have you bought hamburger meat lately? That's gone up a lot more and is a lot more expensive. See, here's the thing. This house, when we bought it 40 years ago, the interest rate we paid was 13.75, 14%, something like that. Now, mortgage rates right now are around 8%, something like that. So 8% isn't great when you compare it to the 2, 3, or 4% mortgages that were being out there being sold just a few years ago. But it's a lot less than the 14% that we were paying when we originally bought this house. Probably the 2 to 3, 4% mortgages weren't sustainable. It's all about perspective. Here's the thing. When it comes to this stuff, explain, explain, explain. And do it in a way that's compassionate and that's sensitive, but don't concede the conversation to the people who are online and they dine out on anger and fear and blame as opposed to dining out on eggs. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this morning. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.